Call to order the January 21st, 2025 Public Safety meeting. And with that, I will entertain a motion for approval of minutes of the meeting of December 16th, 2024.
I move to approve the minutes for December 16th, 2024's public safety meeting.
Second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now the meeting is open to public. Anybody who wants to address the committee at this point should move up to the podium and address their comments to the committee. Thank you.
Excuse me. Good evening. My name is John Arcari. I live at 26 Parsonage Street here in Rocky Hill. I've been a resident of the town for approximately 47 years, and I'm here today to speak as a resident of the town, but I would also like to disclose that I'm a member of the fire department. I've been on the department for 20 years, currently serving as captain of the fire police. I've come to the last two public safety committee meetings, and I'm a little disturbed by the fact that an item that keeps coming up on the agenda keeps getting pushed off. I don't understand why the committee can't seem to finish it within the 1 hour time, but as I listen, I hear questions being asked repeatedly, the exact same question. I hear committee members dragging things out and then letting the time lapse. I don't know why the committee seems to feel, members of the committee seem to feel the need to constantly prolong this rather than make their recommendation as they're supposed to do and then forward it on to the council for a vote. I'm not interested in what your opinion is based on that, whether you're for or against it, that's entirely up to you. It's reprehensible to me that you're using this committee to hold something up rather than let it go through its natural progression. As I understand it, the committee is supposed to review and then make a recommendation. I also saw the mayor last week say that if there were so many questions that needed to be answered, perhaps a special meeting should be held, to which one of the members indicated that you tried that before, but it doesn't work with your schedule. Well, coming to 3 of these meetings doesn't work with my schedule, yet I left work early today to make sure that I was here. As elected officials, I would assume that you would find the time, if it's that important, to get your questions answered, and if a special meeting is required, then you should do so. As far as I'm concerned, this matter, whether you approve of it or not, should be put forward so that it can be put to a vote by the council. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your opinion. Thank you. Anybody else wants to come up to the podium and share their views or opinions or address this committee? Anybody online who wants to share their opinions?
Chairman, I'd like to amend the agenda tonight and move old business item number 5, discussion possible action, Mission CIT contract, fire department training ground, to this next moment before the public department updates.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving to old business, I would like Mission CIT CEO to come up to the podium and answer the questions of the committee, if they so choose.
Gentlemen,
Hi.
how are you?
Very good. How about you?
I'm well. We're well.
Thank you for making that long road trip from Shelton.
Please state
Okay.
your names,
Yeah.
please.
Peter Morato, Mission CIT.
Yeah.
Warren Fisher, CEO, Mission CIT.
And Keith Albert, Mission CIT.
Okay. So let's start where we left off last time we were here. And where we left off last time was I asked the town manager to provide a cost-benefit analysis and He has, so I would like for the town manager to go through that and walk us through the spreadsheet that you provided, and if you can share it with the public.
Well, here's the process, Mr. Chairman. You asked me, and I did a little bit of work on it, but then I gave it to our finance director to do some more digging, working with the fire chief and the facilities director to come up with some real costs for utilities. Water, which is not chargeable, and also utilizing the frequency of classes identified in the testimony from Mission CIT, and utilizing some other data that we already have in existence regarding rental rates, and also utility costs. So I'm going to have our finance director go through a more detailed analysis of what you see in front of you.
Sure.
Okay. So it's presented as the tangible benefits and then followed by costs, although some of the benefits we inferred were based on the actual costs. So just running through the list, we had in previous discussions mentioned that Mission CIT was offering 5 seats at classes at no cost. So we see the calculation there would be 5 classes at $250 each, coming to the $6,250. We've also had discussion that there'd be a 20% discount on current price. Currently, it's $6,500 per quarter, so that calculation is the $5,200. As far as, I have a line item that is called recommending a room rental fee per class offered at our location. Basing that calculation on, we currently have a rental fee set up for our Parks and Recs facility. This $65 per hour that we're putting in our tangible benefit, if we were to charge that, is based on a non-resident organization renting a room. This is for the price of a room that is relatively similar to what the Fire 2 classroom area would be. So again, we had some assumptions that there would be 4-hour classes 4 times a month, which was part of previous discussions at previous meetings for the 12 months. So bringing in a revenue of $12,480. I'll link that back down to actual utility costs when I get to the next section. As far as utility fees, the lower part shows what the utility costs are. Presently, the utility costs are tracked by Facilities Department. This included electricity and heat. That particular building, on the average we looked at a couple of years, was approximately $17,000 per year, both utilities involved. So that was coming out with our estimation of $12.75 per hour. I show the rationale of the formula a little bit later on in the costs.
Mona, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
At the bottom, you use the number 1150.
1150 per hour times 4 sessions.
Those should be a wash, those two numbers. They are not.
Well, in reality, they are. If you look at that, that's the utilities of 1150, and the line item below it, that's called trash collection. So the 2208 for utilities and the 287 for trash is 2480. So actually, we probably shy a few dollars.
Are you
Rolling trash into a...
okay.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. Well, an assumption that we built in was a 10-year life. We've mentioned the $1 million building project, and if that were a life of 10 years, of course, buildings can be 30 years, but for presentation, we'd give that, estimating a 10-year life for $100,000. Commenting back on the costs, so this is based on actual cost. We were looking at the actual usage of time of the Firehouse 2. Again, the annual costs are not a large amount. $17,920 was the last actual that we had. And working with the chief, we've determined that an estimate of hours per week used would be approximately 30 hours. So in all honesty, that's probably more of a, I was expecting it to be a lesser amount, so that did give us a higher hourly rate using the 30 hours. Because obviously every building is there 24 hours, but we're looking at usage for electricity and heat. Trash collection, there's a weekly pickup. Perhaps it's an aggressive assumption. I'm saying 50% should be charged for trash, and that's an estimate. Custodial, we have zero allocation. Unlike when we do the parks department, we'll have a custodian has to stay in late hours to make sure the building closes. That's not the case with this particular building, and the custodial is done once a day regardless, or every other day. So you can see that the cost benefit overall, if we were to agree to an hourly rental rate as well as an hourly utility rate, that this could be a positive cost benefit.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councilor Whelan?
I'm just, how did you guys come up with 30 hours a week for Company 2 being used?
Well, we wanted to present it, I guess, as accurate as we could. The original intent was that when, from my perspective, I'm looking at the building and the usage, I would assume that that's going to be at least an 8-hour day, 7 days a week type of firehouse is always open. If that were the case, that was probably going to show you an utility rate of, if I can remember, it was $2 or $3, which just didn't seem realistic. So let's base that actual on just real bodies in the building rather than looking at a full, open operating all day, which for all intents and purposes it is. So I think this gives you the higher rate rather than the lower.
I'd like to ask a question to Mission CIT. We had here estimated 4 sessions per month. Was that for the utilization of the building you were looking at?
So that was an estimate just based on what we think we might do on the training ground. Building itself will be very limited. It's just probably bathroom use at this point. Classroom use will be very limited because most of what we're going to be delivering is going to be delivered in weather that will not require us to be indoors. But it's mostly going to be just in and out for facility usage. And it'll be done at probably 4 hours at a time. And that would be most likely on a Saturday or Sunday morning.
All right, thank you.
Earlier, you guys had stated you were going to use the facility April through November as your main.
Yeah, so
Time
if
frame.
weather permits, those would be the main, that would be our season, as we would say, that we would probably utilize. We would not utilize in the winter. We might
Right.
be on site to do maintenance on it or something during the winter, but we would not be utilizing it for classes.
So you were saying that before it was both days on the weekends, so April through November, that's 8 months.
Right. It doesn't, so at this point, as this project lengthened out, we do have a lot of other things that are going on. So we are kind of creating a scope of where we truly want to be in the reality of utilizing it to both be fair to us and to you. So as far as using it every weekend, I don't know if that's going to be something that we're going to do. That wouldn't be something we'd be able to determine at least until year 2, because most of year 1, if approved, it's going to be a lot of us testing and making sure it works properly, and then going to marketing and how we're going to do that. So it really wouldn't be a heavy lift for us the first year, and then we'd really see where we wanted to go with it once it was doing what, we intended it to do.
And you're thinking that a training session would be just 4 hours a day?
Most likely when we do a practical session, unless, we agree with, with the fire chief that we're going to do a full 8-hour day, most of the modern day students and the clients, they want to get in 4 hours and be out. The days of us staying late are usually not there anymore. It's a different generation of firefighters now. So for sure, mostly 4-hour days is what we're going to most likely do.
What time period in the day you think it will be?
Most likely it's going to be the morning hours. So we're looking to be in there and probably have an 8 o'clock start time and be out of there at lunch, a little after lunch.
And how many, if I may, how many student firefighters are going to be there at any given time?
So if we were doing something for, in joint with Rocky Hill, it would be whatever their staff is that would be in and out. If we were doing a class where we're bringing clients in, we limit our classes to usually 20 students would be our maximum. But that doesn't mean it's always going to be 20. It would depend on the department that would be coming in, but we try never to go above 20 just for the ratio of instruction.
Councilor Baker, please continue.
I've looked at the park and rec rates as the town manager suggested, but the rates that they're picking is from municipal organization or the Board of Ed. You guys, there's different categories. Category 3 is businesses in Rocky Hill, nonprofits, and your Rocky Hill resident. Category 4 is a non-resident business, non-residents. I believe you'd be falling into category 3 or 4, which would be a significantly different rate than the $65 an hour.
That actually is based on the category 4.
You're basing it on category 4?
Yes, sir. It was based on category 4, the gymnasium, because that is, I guess what we're trying to equate it, they're not going to have kitchen warming, so it was not the $80. And entire room, when made reference to the senior center, was that multi-3-room section. So
Are you doing weekend rates?
Yeah.
$170 an hour, if I'm looking at the gymnasium on the weekends.
on business hours. Okay, that's a good point, though, if we wanted to do
Because they're going to be
weekends.
operating on
But I think there's a big
weekends.
difference between using a gymnasium for an event and possibly just using the facilities for 4 hours a day. I
Well,
mean,
we're
that's
just-
a
I'm
that's a
just-
rental hall, probably.
I'm
I
just
got it.
using the park and rec guidelines that the town manager suggested.
Yeah.
Excuse me, just as a point of reference, we currently rent space from Litchfield County Regional Fire School and Fairfield Regional Fire School and Eastern Connecticut Regional Fire School. And their fees per day, which is an 8-hour training day inside, it's $250 a day is what we're charged. So that's $32 an hour or whatever.
I have the Eastern Connecticut Fire School training here, rates. I don't see it. I have $350 for a classroom, burn building area, $500 a day. I don't have anything that low of a rate. If
We can, okay, so to that point, we can go to a flat rate. We can consider that. If you want to consider a flat rate, that can be an option.
Yeah, the point is that, comparable, and we do in fact pay,
Okay.
pay that much per day. It's not $170 an hour. That doesn't make sense. But
Okay.
if we need to open the building for a half an hour and you need to bring somebody in, it's different than you just said that
Right.
you're cleaning every 2 days.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
yeah, my intention is the hourly rate is for the use of the site, not just the building,
Sure.
Correct.
right?
Yeah,
Correct.
The site as
And
well.
I'm inclined to go with 130 to 170, one of those categories, to bring
Yeah,
that up.
and thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I was just inquiring if you would be open to a flat rate as a possibility. I'm not suggesting we go there yet, but point well taken, thank you.
Just for my knowledge and justification, that would mean if we were coming to you and we're renting a site to do, to do the business that we're coming to you for a product, we're missing the fact that we're creating the product here, free of charge. We're putting the facility up free of charge. So what are we actually paying for?
And we will get to that,
Okay,
to the product itself.
okay.
We'll get there.
So that's my concern is we come up with some type of rate for, I don't care if it's a flat rate for the day, whatever, some number,
So I'm just trying to make sure that we take notes. So that was one, option, which is flat rate. And then the other option is close to
hourly.
The hourly rate, which is for the weekend
Correct.
on Category 4. Thank you. Please continue. Thank you.
So once we come to some type of agreement there, I'll be okay with that. And then in the agreement itself, 15.1, it's the entire agreement. There's the last sentence says, "There will be no modification or amendment of this agreement shall be valid unless in writing," and I'm going to see if you could put approved by the town council, then signed by both parties. I'm kind of just wrapping up the conclusion of my stuff unless you have something, or you
Yeah.
want me to kind of.
Yeah, so I have some questions on the product side, and we can go there. So coming off, I've based all my questions based on the cost benefit which Mona put together. So I would like to go in some detail about the 1 million estimate for 10 years and the 100,000 investment per year on your part, which goes to, I think, the idea of the product. So if you want to talk about the product now at this point, I think.
Well, so the product is a series of containers that we are going to provide unique fire training to a specific skill set to offer to fire departments throughout the area. Sure. That's what the product is. The product is different because it is not just an open building that we might see throughout the state. It gives you a realistic approach and a realistic look to certain skill sets. And that is the goal of this. The goal of this is not to put up a burn building. That was never the goal of this. The goal is to make training skill set props. As we start to put these in, believe me, there's a lot of risk for us with this, okay? So you guys also have to understand that we're doing this to see if it works, right? We have a plan, we have an idea, and we have experience to push this through. But there also is a lot of give and take with testing and the proper usage of it and to make sure that it's wanted. We could invest $100,000 in here and get not one client. And it can happen. You know what happens then? The Rocky Hill Fire Department benefits from getting a training ground, which is included in this contract. So the risk is not to the town of Rocky Hill by any means. The Rocky Hill Fire Department is going to make out in this no matter what happens because we're a training partner with them and it's on your land. So they're yours. We agreed to that in the contract. So, you know, as we're going back and forth and we're looking at the risk is all on Mission CIT to make this work.
Yeah, and I want to get a little bit more deeper into that risk.
Yeah.
My
So
assumption, yes,
yeah,
of
so-
course, you are making the capital investment there. And I would like to know more about that capital investment and
What would you
how
like
much
to
of
know?
that 1 million investment, which is
Well,
on that cost benefit.
so the 1 million, I don't know where the $1 million investment came from because that's not in the contract. The $1 million is what we assume would be the revenue over 10 years if it is done and it is wanted in the industry for sure. And that's where the revenue would be. But the revenue could also be, $40,000 a year. So our initial cost and investment of acquiring the boxes, of having a certified agency work on them to make sure they are structurally ready to go, and then to make sure we're following 1403 and all the NFPA compliant documents that go along with it, is a risk on our part. Now, we are equipped to do so with subject matter experts and years of experience doing this. And we will continue to invest money into the site as we put these boxes up, and they are done legitimately correct. We are not rushing to put a series of a makeshift town that is just to say that we have quantity. We want quality. So we are going to do this and do it to meet the needs of not only the Rocky Hill Fire Department, but anybody else that chooses to use the Rocky Hill site. So the investment will be slated over several years as we continue to add to these props to get results that we are looking for and to obviously generate the revenue for the site to keep creating a better training ground. That's the overall look of it.
Yes, so going back to the 1 million number.
Oh, and also, also the grants and what we're going to provide to the site, because as this site becomes a regional facility, which it is and it will be as it creates the stir and the buzz around this, we'll be able to put in for those those much anticipated and wanted grants that will only enhance the Rocky Hill Fire Department and the training site.
Yeah, so just want to stay on that 1 million number.
Yep.
I will.
I don't
go
know
to
where
the
you came
town-
up with the 1 million number, but,
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm moving to the town manager at this point. Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, so if you can address that.
I am not
It's
aware.
on the cost benefit, it says, Phase 1 improved building, and it says, based on assumption of 1 million improvements on a 10-year life.
It's $100,000 of, in your presentation, you
Yes.
indicated $100,000.
The $100,000
a
would be the
year for-
investment into the containers, that's how we envision.
That's a one-time investment, though.
That's how we envision the project moving forward to get the boxes that we need to then start the operation. And we can always expand. If down the road in 5 years, we say, well, this is great, and we're, this is a max benefit on both ends, we'll continue to add as long as it's agreed on, by the fire department and it makes sense, for sure.
Yeah, so
And
it's-
that would be at our cost, not at your cost.
So it's not a $1 million commitment. I just want
It
to
is
make
not.
sure, which is on paper here.
No.
That's not the case.
Right,
Right.
it's his.
Period of investment.
Yeah, it's a $100,000 upfront investment on your part, which I understood.
Yes, if the project is seen through as we envision it in the presentation, we estimated about $100,000 of investment on our part to create what we showed you in our presentation.
All right, that makes sense.
Yes.
Because this seemed like a 10-year,
Yep. No,
$100,000 a year investment to me.
absolutely not.
Which, okay, thank you.
Would you guys consider a 3-year agreement?
No, the reason being is we have to put probably 3 years of work just to get it to where we want it. And I think there's too much risk in us, I don't think that our relationship would ever go astray, but if it did, or whatever happened and say, we don't want you guys here for whatever reason, I believe that our work and our investment would just be for waste. So I truly believe, we're looking for, as been with the Rocky Hill Fire Department now for 15 years, I've been training with them. I'm looking for long-term. Once we're in, we stay in. So I wouldn't want to put a number as low as 3 years on something like that. It would just be a lot of work.
Yeah, and I totally understand that.
Go ahead, you can.
And let me just add the business side of things. Nobody knows this exists as a public, as available to other fire departments in the region. A general, going from nothing to something takes 18 months to get to level 1, and to get a brand out there with a viable product set that's acknowledged as a quality product is a 5-year endeavor before the marketplace really says, oh, yeah, we need to use that. So hence, we asked for a 10-year to get started.
Yeah, and that's understandable. What we are looking for, though, is something which can be understandably in your interest, but also in the interest of both parties from the perspective of tracking the agreement as it is intended, right? So for example, just this example of the $1 million, right? Thanks for clarification, right? And the second piece of this is the investment piece, but also in terms of how the town is utilizing those benefits that are listed here on the benefit side of things, as well as in terms of fees, incremental costs, all that. There should be a mechanism, in our view, to look at that and track those things, right? So the agreement, a 10-year agreement, in my view personally, and you might disagree, and that's the discussion here, is beneficial to both parties. If you look at, and I'm not suggesting 3 years. You gave an answer about 3 years, that's totally fine. What about if it's 5 years, right? And it's reviewable every 3 years from both sides. And if you are doing really well, for example, right, it will be in your interest. If you got like 3 grants, which were substantial, it will be in your interest to negotiate a better contract with the town. So that's how I'm thinking about it. A 10-year contract is too long for both parties. I'm sure you do this from a business perspective, right? 10-year contracts are, in my view, not very effective.
So we're creating we have a brand, right? So we're not going to jeopardize our brand. and jeopardize it by not doing the right thing by the fire department and by the training grounds. We, like I told you from the beginning, we're a partnership. We don't look at it as a contract because everything we're putting there is at our expense. You're allowing us to put something down on a piece of land, which we would greatly appreciate because it is zoned for that, right? And it would be greatly appreciated because it would benefit the fire department that has been a long, loyal client of ours, right? So by putting everything down there, we believe that as we continue to build and expand on this training ground, we are leaving you or affording you the option to have a state-of-the-art training facility that you would never be able to replicate based on what we're giving you. So the longer we go, the better off it is for both parties. Remember, that is your stuff. It's not like we're gonna, say, what, in 10 years from now, or 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, Mission CIT is moving on, and we're gonna part ways as friends because we just have other things to do. We're not taking the boxes with us. So the Rocky Hill Fire Department for the next generation of training that comes through here is going to have the benefit of having a state-of-the-art facility that does so many different things. That's how we look at it. And we look at the benefit of what we're going to try to do to get you that grant funded because we know how to obviously utilize the mutual aid agreement in the area as a training ground, to get you an upgraded cascade system for your fire department. So yeah, that would fill SCBA cylinders 4 hours on a weekend, but you know what it would also do? It would fill SCBA cylinders for the Rocky Hill Fire Department for the next 25 years. So that's the benefit that we're looking at for you. We're looking at PPE, possibly for the fire department because they're utilizing this. We can leverage all this in the industry to make the Rocky Hill Fire Department look good. Okay, again, I don't know what the revenue is going to be on these boxes. I have an idea of what we can and can't do, right, for sure. But I can't tell you that, we're going to be open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and we're just going to take students and students and students. There may be months that we use it one time, all right? But the benefit is still there. The Rocky Hill Fire Department is still utilizing it. So that's why we would love to have a longer-term agreement or at least the understanding that, yes, we can sit down as partners and discuss a change in the agreement, but we want to have at least the security of knowing that our initial work and investment is going to be afforded to us, as long as we can keep a good relationship.
Yeah, and I completely get that. Yep. I totally understand the intention behind it, and I subscribe to that. Okay. The question is the 10-year.
So I would say that 5 years would be, just as you've seen from our CEO, that just to get up and running and to create a brand around it and to really say that we're a well-oiled machine on the site is a 5-year agreement. So I believe at 5 years, at least if we were to get the initial 5 years and then have a renegotiation, I would call it, at 5 years, that would be wonderful.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. And on the 5-year piece, I think. Unless, Councilor, you have a question, I don't know if you do on that.
No, I think that's a great
The
idea.
chain of thought I had on that was what we would like to do ideally is if the town manager agrees and, if this sounds like a good idea, the 5 year, if it seems like it is on the Mission CIT side, we can have a review at the 3-year point on the council side. And we can have a built-in yearly review on the progress.
We should do an annual review anyways as a group to say, what's working, what's not working, what we think our strategies are going to be for the next year. So it's transparent to everybody of what's going on and what's in the pipeline. This way there's never a question. This way that creates a partnership.
Exactly. So a yearly review on the Public Safety Committee and a 3-year review on the Town Council.
We're fine with that.
And that will be the point where we can look at actuals at that point.
Yeah.
Right? The cost, the benefits, how are they trickling in? So sounds like we are in agreement.
We're in agreement with that.
Okay. Okay, good. And then the other question the last one. So the 3-year, and then, sorry, I have too many notes here. Just to flip through this. Yeah, one quick question I had for you was about any structural alterations and additions made on the training ground, right? What does that actually mean from a practical standpoint?
So as the current footprint sits now, there will be no changes. Everything will stay the same. We'll be adding, per the presentation, in already existing open area, and we're just going to be adding similar containers to what we had. The changes on the inside are what will be noticeable. You won't notice, like, structurally, we're not going to build a 7-story Connex box. They're going to be small, they're going to fit into the landscape that's already there, and all the meat of the prop is on the interior. So when we close the door and lock it, it's just going to look like a storage box that's sitting there.
Okay, so there's not, okay. Yeah,
And
makes
there's
sense.
no foundation work, there's no pilings, there's nothing like that. It's just going to be put down on level gravel. Yeah, it's not going to, we're not changing the sight line. Nothing will look different. If you were to drive back there, you wouldn't actually see our props because the building is taller than the props currently, that the current props are.
Okay, and I lied, I have
That's okay.
another suggestion, question, discussion point. So from a utility standpoint, sorry, I do this work as a volunteer, so I take notes after my work, so like they're all over the place. So I would like to be more organized, but I'm not.
Okay.
And
I feel the pain sometimes.
Yeah,
I do the same thing.
I have no shame in saying that. As long as I get to the questions, we have a full hour. Chief can wait. That's fine.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. So the question I had was about the utilities. Can we go to a 3% inflation-based increase in that rate, which Mona suggested?
Okay.
Is that okay? All right, that was easy. I think it makes sense. Thank you for that. And 3% reasonable, I think. That's the Fed target, so we can live with that, I guess. Okay.
You're the money guy, if that's what you say, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, if it gets, so here's the thing, if it gets below 3%, you can come back in 3 years and say, okay, 3% is too much.
Yeah,
But if it goes up, we can say the same thing, right? So
sure.
it keeps like some kind of hook into that rate, because it's not gonna stay the same, right? I mean, these utility prices go up, you know that. I mean, we all know that. We're all consumers at some point.
Sure.
Sorry, you were gonna say something.
Absolutely fine. It's fine.
Okay, thank you. So that's all I got for now, and I know Councilor Whalen had some
I'd just like to
additions.
work on this progress. You know, I thank you for guys. It seems like you're trying to work with us. I just want a fair deal for the taxpayers as well as you guys, as well as our fire department, and move this forward for all of us. If I could, I'm going to summarize some of the points in the agreement, some different sections that are concerned to me. We've talked about them, but it's a summary just to go through them one last time. The agreement itself, Section 1, can we include hours? And are we going to do this from January, the months, January to December, or are we going to do it April to November?
So I would say that any time that the classes would be going on, I mean, obviously with a mild winter, we can train in March, as we train the fire department there in March.
So you say the whole year then?
I don't
Just
know.
to be safe.
I would say the whole year, because
Okay.
during the year, as we evolve with the courses that we make available, whether we use the fire ground or not, we may start a course using the classroom facilities inside, and as, you know, started in February and in March, we're outside. So I'd rather not restrict it.
Okay. Yeah, I just would rather have that in the agreement one section, you know, in the hours of your operation. The hours are important because there are some 55 and older housings in that area. I don't want you to go too late or
We
start too early.
certainly wouldn't be past, 8 o'clock in the morning would be a start time, and we certainly wouldn't be past 4 o'clock in the afternoon ever. So,
Don't say that.
At
Don't
dusk.
say that because these guys
Outside
train
work.
at night.
Outside, inside.
well, they train at night. We wouldn't be bringing clients there at night.
Okay,
We conclude
perfect.
no later than 9 o'clock at night.
Right. We would, and if it was just easier for us to fall into those regulations with
That's
them,
fine.
we can do that, that's
Yeah,
fine.
that's good.
Just for clarification, that would be 8 to 4, or are we,
Well, if we can fall under the same regulations of the fire department, but I can tell you that we would not be running a class where we would be bringing people in at nighttime.
Okay.
If we were doing something there for Rocky Hill, we might be there at night, but any class that we would run or advertise would be a daytime class. And that would
Thanks.
most likely be on a Saturday or Sunday.
Okay, section 2 of your terms and agreement. I was just wondering if we talked about if Public Safety Committee could review this with you guys annually during our April meeting. Just a thought, you know, just so we could get it down,
I don't mind.
if we could put that
We
in
want to be
there.
as transparent as we can be, so we can all be happy and have a partnership. So if it
Mr.
takes us
Warren
having a
stresses
meeting once
that.
in a while, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, if
Perfect.
The first year, if you want it twice, and then once a year, it's fine too.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Section 4, site development and maintenance. You guys are going to be responsible for all fabrication of the props and setting them up.
Correct.
Section 4.2. Oh, that's the grant part. We talked about the grants. You guys are going to write them.
Correct.
Most grants, you said, are 90% funded, 10%
There's a
are.
10% match usually from the
Correct.
town, yes.
I,
that would be, any type of matches will be required to go through finance and town council as we do every other grant?
I'm just, and we talked about, if you write a grant for us, the Rocky Hill Fire Department, and we're going to just use that item, or it's for totally our benefit, I think we should pay the full part of the grant. But I think if you're writing a grant for, that you're going to be using for your business, you guys should grab that 10%.
So any grant that we would be able to get, we would have to pair it as a Rocky Hill Fire Department or mutual aid training grant. So we could not pair a grant to our business. If we're doing a grant, it's for the benefit of the Rocky Hill Fire Department, which would mean either breathing air, which would mean equipment, but it would have to be something that the Rocky Hill Fire Department is going to solely be the user of. We would use a cascade system there to fill bottles because it would be part of the firehouse, which we would currently use now. So we're looking only to enhance what we can get you to use, to be a caveat, obviously, to use the site.
So you would write a grant, you guys, you would not use your training grounds for your business if you got a grant?
No, so we would use it, but if we're, the first thing that comes to mind for a grant that's probably an easy get is to upgrade your Cascade bottle system, right? That's easy to do. But the Rocky Hill Fire Department and everyone else is going to benefit. You're going to be the sole users of it. Yes, we're going to use it when we're there, but for you to make the initial investment or to get the grant, I believe that's a benefit of us getting the grant that would be probably enough to say, all right, yeah, you're also using it. But we would not solely put in for a piece of equipment or a training prop to say, oh, we're getting this because we're going to use it. If we do anything for grant, it's going to be grant driven by equipment that is going to be used by the fire department.
So, just help me clarify this. It was my understanding that with the grants, we would have access to your grant writing service.
That's, yes.
Yeah, not specifically a grant for the rear of 52 New Britain Avenue, but
Right.
access to your service. So the grants we may be looking at, and I don't have anything planned or written down, may not have anything to do with Mission CIT, may be 100% for the department and/or the town.
Well, I agree
So-
with that one. We
Yeah.
should pay that 10% without.
Okay,
I don't,
all
I
right.
agree with that 100%, but I'm saying if they're writing a grant for another container that they're gonna use in their
No,
training.
we wouldn't most likely, because to get grants for training containers is almost non-existent. And to get a grant for a true burn building would be something that I don't think we want to do on that site. I was more thinking of the lines of, equipment. If we can get, PPE because, for the Rocky Hill Fire Department, because they're training on these type of equipment, or we can show that, we want to upgrade to the, whatever that has to do with using the site, but it wouldn't be a specific, I don't believe that market is there in the grant world. But it would be, I believe, like the chief said, offering the service if you wanted a grant on technical rescue equipment, because you go to the highway a lot. Well, we've been very successful with getting those grants, so we would write a grant, you'd be able to outfit your rescue truck with, $100,000 of tech rescue equipment. I think that's kind of the grant partnership that we were looking to do, just to be a good neighbor and a good citizen of the
Thank you.
grounds.
That's perfect. And like town manager says, we have a checks and balances at
Yeah.
our level too.
We also, maybe we should consider deleting in facilities from 4.2 and just keep it for training equipment.
It's a good idea, yeah.
Mike, what do you think?
I don't have that in front of me, Ray. Can you-
Well, it just says Mission CIT will additional training, grant applications for training equipment and facilities.
Yes.
We keep facilities in?
Yeah, we could leave them in because as Peter was talking about, he did mention the cascade system, which would be considered part of the facility. So I would definitely leave that in.
And what about changing it from, I would like to see may to shall. I mean, you leaving it open, they could not, they may not even, in the future, not write grants, and that's part of the benefit of this.
True. So shall. yeah.
I could say
If you guys are okay with that.
All right,
Shall is fine, and again,
Okay.
it specifically states upon approval by the town.
right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you, Ray.
Section 5, permit and licenses. I think the town manager worked that out, that you guys are going to be responsible for the permits and licenses fees.
What licenses and fees would they be again?
If there are any, I don't know, maybe building department might
Building
require.
permit fees.
No, because they're not fixed structures, so we don't foresee any type of.
We don't know, but the
Okay.
that's up to the
Yep.
community development department.
Okay. Section 9, right to use. We talked about the cleaning fee in the past, but it may not be an extra fee because it sounds like there'd be just a general cleaning of the building.
There is no custodial cost there, right? Just to confirm.
No additional.
Okay.
Okay. So not too worried about 9.2. 9.3, the utilities, we're kind of working that out tonight about the utility price that you guys will have to contribute to that. Section 12, consideration for the town facility. Maybe you guys work with our town to give us our best option, either a flat rate, whatever you want, or we're talking $130 an hour. Try to figure something out there.
I think in fairness, we should probably be equivalent to what the fire schools are charging for a flat rate. If we're going to do that. I honestly don't think that is one thing that we should have to incur. We are giving a lot, and we're trying to work together for this goal. Again, we can go a year without having anything going on there, for sure. I don't see the benefit of it, and I don't want to be a stickler for that. But I think the flat rate is a lot to ask when we are putting the props in and maintaining them. That's just the view of me, not very necessarily the view of Mission CIT. But we are putting a lot of work and man hours into this, and a lot of money into it to get it to where it needs to be. I think that the flat rate should be overlooked.
Well, it's duly noted, your point, but from our point of view, we need to make sure that we are covering all our bases.
I understand.
It's an investment on your part. It's a business.
I think
And
it's
we
a
all do
fair
it.
thing to
It's a
do
fair
also.
thing. It's part of your $100,000 investment into the capital investment, which you're making. I don't think it's unreasonable.
Okay.
So I think, and again, like this is an opportunity to prove out the value of the partnership. That's how I see it. And then after 3 years, when we are looking at this again. We could renegotiate. Absolutely.
Okay, so come up with something. And the last one is at section 15, miscellaneous provisions. The last sentence, I'll just read it again. No modifications or amendment of this agreement shall be valid unless in writing, and add approved by the town council and then signed by both parties. I think the town council needs to be in, any type of
Sure.
changes. That's all I have tonight. Hopefully, maybe next meeting, come back with the
Yeah,
best
so-
agreement, or and we could
I will look
try
to
to
like
get this moving?
Yeah, I will look to Ray on that. Like, Ray, whenever you can provide us a amended agreement with all the changes, if you can highlight all the changes, that will be fantastic, just to go through it quickly. And then, once I have it, I will make the decision on, like, if we need a special meeting or we want to do it in normal order, in regular order. But as soon as I have that document, I can start thinking about that. So if that makes sense to everyone?
Yeah, I mean, do we, you guys are in agreement of what the changes? We don't have to worry, with this next questions, and everybody's happy with where we're at?
Yeah, as long
Okay.
as we get the document, we are able to review it.
Okay.
We can move forward with the next steps.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless we disagree with something,
Correct.
but we've agreed to whatever's been put in front of us, so. if
Right.
you-
And I know Ray was taking diligent notes, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like just see the one
Hopefully I can
final
read 'em.
agreement to
Okay.
be read. and
Hopefully I
then
can read them.
Okay,
move
that's fine,
forward.
that's fair.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just, it will give us some time to review, and also you the time to
Sure.
review, most importantly. And then our colleague here, Bill, is not
Yes,
here today.
true.
Okay.
So he will get a chance to review it as well. So I think it's fair to all
Yeah, that's
parties.
fair.
And we'll go to the next steps.
Okay. We thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
We'll see you
thank
next,
Thank you.
Thanks for your
hopefully
help.
next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do departments.
All right, so let's me find my agenda. All right, it's, now we are moving to regular order of things. With the department updates, we'll start with fire, and thank you to all the chiefs here for waiting for our regular order, so I appreciate that. Start with fire.
Well, I'd like to start with a thank you and thank the committee for amending the agenda and bringing that forward. I really appreciate that. I believe we got a lot done tonight, and I'm very excited about it. So thank you again. Oh, let's see. You have our executive summary. So just a couple other things worth mentioning. We've had some difficult calls lately. Fatal motor vehicle accident, MVA versus pedestrian on the Silas Dean Highway. We committed apparatus and personnel there to support the PD for the duration of the incident, including the investigation. A natural gas leak at Glenbrook last week, specifically 5 to 7 Drummond Drive, which backs up to 6 to 8 Lathrop. And this required an evacuation of over 40 apartments. We had an ambient temperature of about 19 degrees, I believe, that day, with a significantly lower wind chill because the wind was really howling. We were getting gas readings in the building, so we just felt it was prudent to move all the people out. The next day, we had a ice rescue on the Connecticut River where we found a lady clinging to the edge of an ice floe about 100 feet from shore. Our troops had her on shore and with EMS within 6 minutes of their arrival. Just an incredible rescue evolution. I was the incident commander, and they were honestly 2 steps ahead of me getting out there and getting tied off and getting her in, and they just did a phenomenal job. And I received this later this afternoon, and Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read it to you, and I'll give you a copy, and it's addressed to me, and it's dated January 14th, but it came in the mail today. It says, Chief Garahy, I happened to be at Ferry Park this morning when the first responders saved a victim who had fallen through the ice. I was very impressed with the rescue effort. The team attempted to, I can't read that word, attempted to communicate with the victim, evaluated the condition of the ice, formulated a plan, and executed it without delay. They kept control and the victim safe as they dealt with the hazards of an ice rescue operation. Rocky Hill is fortunate to have such professional and capable first responders. Best regards, it's signed by Dennis Palmer. That was a all-hands operation, including police officers on the rescue ropes, and it just all came together at once, and it just, can't say enough good about that, and I'll bring this up to you shortly. And the last thing was more of a unique call. We had a tractor trailer carrying 50 yards of construction debris burning on I-91 right before exit 23. What's unique about this is this is an operation that's going to require just a ton of water. And we had to bring in, the incident commander made the decision to bring in water from the Cisco yard hydrant system, which was about 150 feet off the highway, going through a fence line, hand laying all the hose back to the hydrants and supplying water out to the incident on the highway. Very labor intensive at the same time. Natural gas leak at Brookwood Village that they handled also. All this done, this long duration incident as well as the gas leak and covering the town without calling mutual aid. A lot of depth in place Friday afternoon. And with that, I stand ready for questions, sir.
Councilor Whelan.
Great job with that rescue.
Thank you.
And as we just saw, training.
Yes,
Those
sir.
guys were ahead of you, jumping in there, doing what they had to do.
Training creates instinct, and they had
Great
it
job,
that day.
yep. I see that right there. So thank all you guys and your training guys for training your people. One note in your report said something about helmets. Did everybody get a new helmet, or is that?
What we
Just
did,
certain ones.
a couple of years ago, NFPA put a sunset on helmets. Helmets were always good for the life,
Right.
provided they weren't damaged and passed inspection. Now they're only good for 10 years.
Okay.
So what we did was we created a baseline by picking up new helmets and getting them out to the troops that way.
Is that all a one-shot deal, or are you doing
Yes.
so many a year? Okay.
One-shot deal.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, great job, thanks.
Anything on the year that passed, Chief, like on the recruiting side, how are things looking there? I saw your recruiting chart, like it's pretty much at that 65 level,
Right.
like for
We
the last
were,
3 years.
We were able to cover our attrition last year, plus add 10%. And this afternoon, we had, I believe it was 3 new recruits had their physical exams. We don't have the results of that yet. Plus 1 or 2 existing members. So more to follow on that once we get the results back in a few days. And I do know we have 1 additional in the pipeline. I think about this time, we need to slow the recruitment down a little bit. We have a little more than 50% under 5 years of experience, with a good number of that under 2 years. So now it's time to really put a lot of effort into training and bringing them up to where they need to be.
Sure. One more question on that. Is there, like, when you're recruiting, like, do you recruit for a particular fire station, or do you have like a balanced, like, let's put it this way, how do you like decide where to deploy those personnel? In other words, is there an imbalance between like different fire stations or more people on one? Do you like have a practice where you deploy more on one, less on the other?
We don't recruit for a particular fire station. We tried that a few years ago with a targeted mailer to the south, east, and west side of the town.
Right.
to bring in more people to Station 3. We got one person out of that from New Britain Avenue, about as far west as you can get.
I remember that. I mean, not that the result of it, but I remember that.
Yeah. So,
effort.
what's been working for us is the yard signs are doing phenomenal. Now, when a person comes in, we look at their home address and we assign them to the closest station. The only exception to that will be if somebody brings them in on a buddy system. And we look at retention. If you come in on a buddy system and it's within reason and you're not driving by a firehouse to get to the station you're assigned, we'll put you with your buddy.
Thanks, Chief. So moving on to, actually, we stay with you, emergency management.
Okay. Let's see. Just bear with me. Let me get the paperwork where I need it. Okay. Let's see. From the emergency management standpoint, well, quite a few conversations over the weekend about the snowstorm. It was very difficult to commit to depths of snow. I happened to bother and Chief Klett Sunday afternoon. I'm not sure he was too happy talking to me, but he was gracious in answering the phone as we discussed the storm, the parking bans, and so forth. Spent a lot of time on the phone with the highway department. Also, this past month, we sent out a press release, and I do have it with me in case we need it, addressing the New Orleans and Las Vegas attacks. The PSA was drafted and sent by our State Department of Emergency Management, and that was to provide a consistent message throughout the state. I have that with me if you do need it. I also attended the statewide EMD director meeting in Glastonbury. And quite a bit of that meeting, the focus was on weather. For the past 2 years, 2 summers ago, we were hit with some catastrophic flooding. Last year, that epicenter shifted south and west of us. So quite a bit was there. They did discuss some potential EMD grants coming up in the future, but nothing was chiseled into stone. We also participated in Eversource training for storm management. And Eversource has been reaching out and has assigned somebody to the town, and we have monthly meetings and reviewing a ton of their procedures on a monthly basis. That's working out well because when there are small issues in town, they answer the phone right away. And lastly, and it was earlier today, we reissued a station security directive to the 3 fire stations as well as EMS. And this was based on an event in Windsor over the weekend where a fire department pickup truck was stolen. A small fire lit in the firehouse as a diversion. And the perpetrator was arrested on I-91 in Massachusetts after trying to pull people over, and he was arrested for a number of charges, including impersonating a police officer. So we kicked up our station security measures, not relying on the automatic door closers, et cetera. So that went out earlier today. So I stand ready for questions.
Chief, you also issued a warming station notification on the website.
Thank you for being my memory. That went out later this afternoon. Warming stations or warming centers where we're using the community center downstairs as well as the library. The PSA went out reminding people that it's okay to dial 211 for that information. Go on 211.org if, for additional information, as well as we posted the hours of the town's warming stations.
And are they open until the end of the week?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is that, okay, cool. Any questions, Counselor?
You talked about some security measures. Do we have camera systems at the firehouses?
No, we do not.
Something that we should consider maybe, or?
We have had talks with Phil Sear about a key fob as well as cameras and security.
Oh, good.
This was prior to today, so I guess I'm going to put that as, we've had proactive talks in the past with Phil Sear about doing this.
Just think something going, get it going, or timetable yet, or not yet?
We hope to get it going. We need to have more talks, and Ray, if you could help me out with that.
We'll look at the CIP budget.
Yeah, it's the funding
On the
at this
list.
point.
Yeah.
But is that something the I-91 funding count could be used for?
It could.
Perhaps.
Just to
It
get
definitely
going
could.
quicker, because I know the CIP funding takes all budgets and all that. If something you think about, get it up and going sooner, it's a possibility.
It definitely could, and actually, the management system we have will also accept thumbprints, there's print readers, et cetera, so there's a lot of exploring to do into this.
Good, and I hope, continue it, please.
Thank you.
That's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Moving on to ambulance, Chief.
My contact is driving me crazy right now, so I'm having a hard time seeing. Trying to get the number of the numbers. Here, I'll switch. I just literally cannot read that right now. She has. Huh? Yeah. And then use. Okay. Yep. Okay. We're talking about, I heard that Mike Garrahy, and I heard about Mission CIT as far as training goes. We have contracted with a new patient care software
Yes.
system, ESO. It's similar, it's similar to many programs used by ambulance services in the area. It's also works well with our billing agency, Certified Ambulance Group. So we'll be using that, starting that training shortly. We're also assessing new training programs as far as a combination of online and in-person training. We have a new training officer, so we're looking at that. Ninth Brain, which is also used by Aetna and a lot of the commercial services as well. This past month, we did a training in service with Narcan, and have. He was recertified in Narcan. Yep, recertified with respect to Narcan use, and also are getting the Narcan over to the police department and doing the leave behind Narcan if you go out on a overdose call or an opiate call. I want to point out the Celestine Highway accident that was addressed by our fire chief. One of our members happened to be in the area and initiated CPR during that event. That I mean, granted, it was unfortunate, but it was good that there was a reaction at that time. We also have someone in our organization very well versed with new websites, and they're working on a new website for us, trying to get that up and running. We also have an official Facebook page. We had another Facebook page in the past, but now we have an official ambulance Facebook page, which we're trying to put on announcements and what have you. As far as membership goes, we have two on military leave right now. One is on more of a temporary leave, I think based upon the inauguration. We have 6 probationary members, 2 of which have been cleared recently. One is out on FMLA, and that's what I have. I believe. Okay.
There's a couple on medical
Okay.
LOA.
Okay, I don't know if there's anything else you want to share concerning. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share.
Kim, are you covering for Dave, or it's okay if you're not? That's okay. I have the slides here, so.
No.
I just literally, my contact lens just went whoop like that, so
So-
I can't see. Just
So that's why.
literally can't see right now.
That is why I'm here.
So that she's just reading what I wrote. Sorry.
Good.
So, until I can
I
get-
do want to say that we're also talking, as far as recruitment goes, we have someone dedicated for recruitment. And I know we've talked as far as getting out to not only, I mean, the high school, obviously the high school and the younger folks are the future of any organization, but also talking to schools in the area, because there are many of our members through the years that I know I've been with the organization, they require patient contacts to move on to medical school or PA school, and so we're talking to,
We're also
talking
trying to revamp
some
some
of
of
the
the
schools.
scholarships and stuff like that that we give out. We have a scholarship program also. We're trying to touch base and trying to update and upgrade things so that it's more user-friendly. And I'd like to see it go forward, not to just be specific to Rocky Hill seniors, but to maybe a little bit more regionalized so that it gets our name out there a little bit further, so that not only is it, not necessarily is it just Rocky Hill 17-year-olds that are getting the benefit of hearing about us, but maybe Central Connecticut kids that can benefit from it. Not only that, but I'd like to also start an EMT scholarship so that they can go to EMT school, not just for college.
That's wonderful, yeah.
Yes, very nice.
Any questions, Councilor Wheel?
I know you're the newer chief, but you have the last year's total numbers
Yes.
for responses. Do we know if that went up from 2023, or how much percentage?
I don't know what it
Okay.
did from 2023 in general.
You have to speak into the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Let me roll over to the microphone. From 2023 till now, I don't know what the numbers were. I did try to look it up. The program that I have to allow me to do that wasn't being very cooperative.
I'm just curious,
Just
because
let
we
me-
know our fire department, and our police have escalated, assuming you guys too, just
Yeah,
if
I'd
you had
have
a
to
number
actually go back
attached.
in your, I'd have to go back into your minutes and
Okay.
do that.
Yeah, I think you,
Assuming it's pretty consistent overall, but it may be slightly less or slight, I think, I don't know.
Okay.
yeah, just looking
Thank
at
you.
it might be a good idea, just comparison, next time
From
you are here.
this year to next year.
Yeah, just year over
I keep
year.
my own notes. but
Just
yeah.
year over year, like, we can put on a chart or something.
Yeah,
That's
I
okay.
keep my own notes, so
Great, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Moving on to PD.
Good evening.
Chief.
Happy New Year.
To you as well, thank you.
We had a productive 2024, aligned with some of our regional partners, but I'd like to really point out to start off tonight, our patrol efforts of our patrol division this year, their hard work, their resiliency, and their dedication to what was been a, somewhat an interesting staffing metric for the since last April, have really stepped up their game, and in even doing so, and with some of those shortages, we've seen and can produced reduction in crime, both stolen cars, larcenies, and vandalisms and property crimes, and you'll note that at the bottom of my report. While I'd like to take 100% credit for that, not me personally, but the patrol division, what we're seeing is a regional change with our regional task force that we're part of in Hartford has made 293 arrests this year. While I can't say that our detectives that are part of that are part of all 293, it's certainly clear to me that those efforts and the regionalization with the task force have been very effective. And I do know, and I'm happy to say, I've been reviewing a lot of the bills that are coming through. There are some very strong bills out there this year in the legislature that are really supportive of our efforts, and happy to provide comment on those another time, but there are some good ones to be paying attention to and throw your support behind. Of note here, I know we're limited on time, you'll note we have a new hire as of the 13th. We have, he is currently an out-of-state comparable, meaning he has to go through a little more training than a normal transfer from one Connecticut town to another. Hopeful to have him on around April. And our Academy graduate, Officer Masano, he won the Best Out of Best, the Luciano Award at the Police Academy, which I didn't know, was kind of a surprise to us being in the audience. But I can tell you, I don't know many officers who received that award. I didn't. I don't know if you did, but I can tell you it's a really it's a tribute to his efforts there at the Academy. So not to buzz by our staff, but again, the 2024 statistics you see are really a result of our officers out there being vigilant, being highly visible, and stopping our cars. And as you note in those the charts, we began tracking those attempted motor vehicle stops, and I think there's something to be said there. Hard to quantify, but I think there's value in that statistic. New to this report, and I mentioned it last meeting, you got me thinking, and I appreciate the questions that you asked me, because we started looking into our call statistics, and we discovered that, like, essentially the way our CAD system works, it's giving you a total call volume, call number for the month, and that's what you see on that chart. January through December, you get that 2,049, or in December, 2,393. At the previous meeting, I mentioned I'm starting to mess around with some software called Power BI, really trying to drill into this data. And on the second page of the report, you'll notice a new chart. It's called Calls for Service and Emergency Responses. And what I was able to do, again, it's not magic, so don't. But playing around with the data to try to give you a true number of what actually is going on. What we figured out was, you asked us about why our calls were kind of flat for 2024, right? And when looking at them in those total numbers, what it comes down to is, and I know you're fully aware of the staffing shortage we've had this year. Glad to say we're back up to the full budgeted amount, full budgeted staff that we're budgeted for at this time. But that full number, those 2,000 numbers, those 3,000 numbers you see per month, are really affected by the number of officers we have on the road. So that chart, the calls for service and assistance, takes out all the calls that are kind of, we'll say, self-initiated. These are calls that I've kind of categorized in our CAD system to come in through our dispatch center as a result of a phone call or a 911, not just all the other work they're doing. So it's not to discount the number you see for December for the 2,393 calls. That's all the self-initiated calls you see that they're doing themselves, stopping a car, doing a case follow-up, business and residential checks. But that real number in that chart, and what I tried to demonstrate to you for the calls for services in 2024 is 8,859 fell into a category that I can say are really a result of phone calls coming in and what we're being batched to. So, but not to discount the proactive nature of their work, because they do a lot of it. But I'm going to start tracking that metric for you and give you a better chart. I just want to get it in here for a quick discussion. I know we have little time left. I can share more, but I'll turn it over for questions.
Counselor.
No, I think that's a great job, Chief. Thank you. That kind of narrows down what they're being assigned or phone calls coming in, not just a patrol check or business check. Not to say that that's being proactive. Of course it is. They're checking residents, checking businesses. But this narrows it down a lot.
Those are important. It's an important metric. It's important that we're checking residents and checking businesses, and that's part of our work.
Absolutely.
A large majority of our work, honestly. But what I wanted you to see, because we're tracking this trend, what I can tell you by that, looking at this chart, the calls for assistance and emergency responses, is a statistic that's not affected by staffing levels or people in training or people on vacation. These are calls coming in from the community. And for the most part, there might be some overlap. I can't make the data perfect, but it's as close as I can get to giving you a real number of our reactive calls that are coming into our center.
Yeah, I mean, no data is perfect, so that's fine. Like, I think we can work with the imperfect data if it gets us to the 90% of what we're trying to look at. So thank you for doing that. I'm just assuming that you went back to 2021 and essentially like build that new chart out, right?
Yes, I tried to keep in line with the years we use for all their charts. So
Right.
what you see there is that work with that software, really just changing dates once I took out what I didn't want to see anymore, and this was the result of that.
Yeah, no, this is great. So thank you for moving the ball forward on that, and I think this will give us much more realistic view. But I should say, like, another view of what we are used to seeing.
Yeah, and if I may, I don't want to discount
Absolutely.
that 2393
Yeah,
number,
of course
because those
not.
are important numbers
Run them
too.
both.
Yeah.
But they are really directly affected. For every officer that's off the road for a month, you're talking 250, call entries that they could be putting in for proactive work that we're not getting credit for on that new chart. But it gives you a metric to kind of take a look in the two.
Yeah.
Just want to give you guys credit, DWIs are up, job patrolling. One thing on that chart there, I don't think all the December information was entered on the UCR area and the ambulance breakdown for the month of December. You have no, unless there were any entries, but there must have been fire-related assist.
Let me take a look at it, and if I can update it before it makes the public, I can get a copy over
Yeah.
to the
Be great, because
manager.
it would add up your stats some more and boost them up a little bit. If you see that area I'm talking
I'll
about?
take a look at it for you.
UCR, and then the one below it. For December, it doesn't have any information. And thanks for continuing your traffic post and letting us know where you're at. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is great. And so those numbers are also the year over year, like you put it on your summary slide, with the stolen motor vehicles and larcenies and everything else. Like, that's the year over year comparison, right? Like from 23 to 24, right?
You're talking on the visual chart, the graph?
On the major investigation and incidents, your talking point on the summary, like, all those crimes are down, like, right?
That's for 2024.
24 compared to 23, right?
Correct.
Okay, year end.
Correct.
Okay, that's awesome. I mean, those are huge numbers, actually. I know we thankfully don't live in a town with a lot of wholesale, crime, but any number is probably, can be brought down. So that's great. I mean, 48%.
There's been a
Yes,
lot
it's
of,
really
as I
good.
mentioned, the task force,
Yeah.
the efforts, they've really been disrupting to a lot of these organized groups, both they're coming in through the Spoke, we call them the Spoke community, we are one of those. And I think that the disruption that's being created by the task force, as well as some other federal efforts, have really broken up some of these groups. Let's hope it stays that way, but, it's a win for
Yeah.
Rocky Hill for 2024.
Yeah, definitely. Amen. And you said 293, right?
293 arrests by the task force out of Hartford, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we have a big, probably not in everything, but we have a big role to play in that probably somewhere in the 293s. Hard to quantify, but
We're in there.
yeah, okay. All right, thank you, Chief. Last but not the least,
Hi, thank you. I'd like to participate, please.
sure, go ahead.
Chief, is there any appetite to creating a consistent funding stream by the state for these task forces? And are there other task forces that exist in the state of Connecticut outside of our region?
So there's one through the state police called Statewide, which they do similar work, whether drugs or theft. Where the funding's been coming from for us, and I imagine for the other communities, has been that ARPA money. As we know, that money's slowly drying or quickly drying up. So if there is support, in fact, myself and my command staff met with Representative Wood this week, or last Friday, to talk about that, to look for other means for support. On our end, I'll remain committed to putting a detective on the team, but really it's the Hartford base that needs that big chunk of money to keep that team running. We're just a small part of that group. So as far as a group amongst the chiefs, have not heard of any reaching out or any legislation, but I will say that if you have a connection or speak to anyone, yes, anything helps. And I think the numbers speak for themselves.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Charlie Brown, Health District. Charlie, you're out there, right?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Happy New Year.
Okay. Happy New Year to y'all too. So two quick things, because I know we're short on time. Norovirus and influenza numbers are both up very high at this point. Influenza numbers have been increasing steadily here over the last 3 weeks. And we see states around us in the very high category for influenza A. And we've had a few outbreaks of influenza within long-term care facilities in our district itself. So just take the proper precautions and go from there. Norovirus is also very high. So we've seen a lot of people, quote, with the stomach flu. Definitely, take precautions to wash your hands, make sure that you're, treating raw food appropriately and not carrying this on to other folks. With that, I stand ready to answer any questions.
Any questions, Councilor?
No, sir, thank you.
I don't have any as well, but thank you for the update there. And
Missed
I
you
didn't have
last
to pantomime this year.
We missed your voice last month.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
yeah, we did.
No worries.
All right, so moving on to, we have no new business, no other business, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.